It was supposed to be a celebration, a historic day, a moment generations of Uzbek football fans had dreamed about. For the very first time ever, Uzbekistan stepped onto the biggest stage in world football, the FIFA World Cup. The flags were waving, the nerves were building. The national anthem had barely faded when thousands realized they were witnessing history. But history alone doesn't win football matches. Standing on the other side was Colombia, a team packed with experience, speed, and attacking quality. And before long, Uzbekistan would discover just how unforgiving the World Cup can be. From the opening whistle, the atmosphere was electric. Uzbekistan weren't just happy to be there. They wanted to compete. Every tackle was cheered. Every forward run lifted the crowd. You could feel the emotion pouring out of a team carrying the hopes of an entire nation. Then came the first warning sign. Colombia began finding pockets of space between the lines. Their attackers moved with confidence, exchanging quick passes and stretching Uzbekistan's defensive shape. One dangerous effort crashed against the side netting, fooling many fans into thinking the opening goal had arrived. It hadn't. Not yet. But Colombia were getting closer. The South Americans started increasing the tempo. Their movement became sharper. Their attacks became more direct. And suddenly, one flowing move nearly broke the deadlock. Luis Diaz burst forward and unleashed a strike that rattled the post. The goalkeeper got a touch, but only just. Uzbekistan survived. For the moment, because Colombia smelled blood. The difference between experienced World Cup teams and newcomers often comes down to recognizing key moments. Colombia sensed uncertainty and immediately pushed harder. Wave after wave of attacks came flooding forward. Runners streamed into the penalty area. Defenders were dragged out of position. Spaces opened everywhere. And eventually the breakthrough arrived. A devastating attacking move cut through the Uzbek defense, and Daniel Munoz was there to finish it. 1-0 Colombia. The Colombian fans erupted. Thousands of miles from home, they had turned part of the stadium into a carnival. The celebrations were deafening. The players sprinted toward the corner flag. Colombia had taken control. For many debutants, that could have been the beginning of the end. But what happened next showed exactly why Uzbekistan's first World Cup appearance will be remembered for more than just the result. Instead of collapsing, they responded. The goals seemed to wake them up. The fear disappeared. The nerves vanished. Suddenly, Uzbekistan began playing with freedom. They pressed higher. They moved the ball faster. They started asking questions of Colombia's defense. Then came the moment every Uzbek fan will remember forever. A hopeful attack developed down the flank. The ball was recycled back into the danger area. Colombia hesitated for just a second. And at the World Cup, 1 second is all it takes. The ball found its way toward goal. It crossed the line, and chaos erupted. Uzbekistan had scored their first ever World Cup goal. The stadium exploded. Players sprinted in every direction. Fans celebrated as if they had won the tournament itself. Years of dreaming, decades of waiting, and finally, Uzbekistan had their World Cup moment. The score was 1-1. The underdogs were alive. And for a brief period, Colombia looked rattled. This was no longer a comfortable evening. This had become a fight. The equalizer completely changed the emotional balance of the game. Uzbekistan believed. Colombia suddenly faced pressure. Questions began forming. Could the newcomers actually pull off one of the biggest shocks of the tournament? Could Colombia throw away a match they had largely controlled? The answer would come from their biggest star, Luis Diaz. Great players have a habit of appearing when their teams need them most. And just when the match felt like it was slipping away from Colombia, Diaz stepped forward. Another Colombian attack surged toward goal. Uzbekistan initially managed to stop the danger. The goalkeeper made an important save, but the danger wasn't over. Not even close. The rebound fell kindly. The defense couldn't clear. And Luis Diaz reacted faster than everyone else. The Colombian winger pounced. Goal. 2-1 Colombia. Just like that, the momentum swung back. The celebrations were different this time. Less relief. More determination. Colombia knew the battle wasn't finished. Uzbekistan refused to surrender. To their credit, they kept pushing forward. Every attack carried hope. Every cross into the box generated belief. The dream of another equalizer remained alive. And then came one of the game's defining moments. Uzbekistan created another dangerous opening. The crowd rose in anticipation. A chance appeared inside the penalty area. For a split second, it looked destined for the net. But Colombia's goalkeeper, Vargas, produced a massive save. Not spectacular, not flashy, just incredibly important. The kind of save that wins matches. Instead of 2-2, Colombia stayed ahead. And that changed everything, because football can be brutally cruel. Moments after surviving that scare, Colombia delivered the knockout punch. The South Americans launched another attack. Uzbekistan's defensive lines were stretched. Tired legs began to show. Concentration levels dropped. One final ball was delivered into the box. The finish was clinical. Goal Colombia. 3-1. Game over. The Colombian bench exploded in celebration. The players knew they had survived a difficult test. Uzbekistan had challenged them, pushed them, and forced them to respond. But quality, experience, and composure eventually made the difference. As the final whistle sounded, the scoreboard read Uzbekistan 1, Colombia 3. For Colombia, it was a professional victory built on attacking quality and the brilliance of Luis Diaz. They showed why many believe they can cause problems for anyone in this tournament. But despite the defeat, there was another story unfolding. The story of Uzbekistan. Yes, they lost. Yes, the World Cup debut ended in disappointment. But they also scored their first World Cup goal. They competed with one of South America's strongest teams. And for long stretches, they proved they belonged on the stage. Every football nation has a first chapter in its World Cup story. This was Uzbekistan's. And while it didn't end with a fairy tale result, it delivered something almost as important: belief. Belief that they can compete. Belief that they can return. Belief that this is only the beginning. Because sometimes history isn't about winning. Sometimes it's about taking the first step. And Uzbekistan just took theirs.
So, what do you think?
What was the biggest moment of the match? Did Colombia deserve the victory? Or did Uzbekistan show enough to earn more? And what should happen next for both teams in this World Cup campaign? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more football stories from around the world.